The hallway smelled like lemon bleach and leather. I was on my knees, scrubbing my sister's suede heels with the hem of my own cotton shirt. Not because I wanted to, not because they were mine, but because Mom said, loud enough for the whole family to hear, "If you're going to live in this house rent-free, you better act like the help." My fingers trembled around the brush. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, my dad snickering from the armchair, sipping a beer, my cousin Todd recording with his phone. Aunt Marlene whispered something to Uncle Pete, and they both chuckled like they were watching reality TV. My sister, Brielle, lounged on the couch in a silk robe, tapping her phone. She didn't even pretend to thank me. She just shifted her foot to the side when I got close to the scuff mark on the sole. "You missed a spot," she mumbled, eyes never leaving her screen. "Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video." I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and smash that brush across her cheek, but I didn't. I didn't even flinch when Mom stood behind me and snapped, "Straighten your back. Don't slouch like a mutt. You're on your knees, not dead." Dad howled with laughter. "She's finally where she belongs." I stayed silent. I always did. Ever since I got laid off from the bookstore and had to move back in, I'd been treated like gum stuck to their shoe. I was the useless college grad, the drain on resources, the leftover. They said Brielle had a future, a modeling contract, sponsorship deals, thousands of followers. She needed a peaceful, clean space to grow her brand. That meant I couldn't cook when she filmed. I couldn't vacuum near her room. I couldn't touch the thermostat. But they didn't stop there. They made me hand wash her laundry, polish her jewelry, blow dry her hair when her stylist canceled. "You should be grateful you're even inside," Mom once spat, slamming the door on my bare feet. "Some parents would have left you on the street." They never hit me. That would have left marks. But words? They knew how to sharpen those. "Your sister is a diamond. You're what we scraped off the shovel," Dad told me once after I asked to join them for dinner out. Even when I got a small freelance job editing articles for a magazine, Mom said, "Don't get cocky. You still don't pay for toilet paper." One day, Brielle walked in screaming that her shoes were dirty. "This brand sends me things for free, and now they'll think I treat their stuff like trash." Mom pointed to me. "Get on your knees. Clean them with your shirt. Now." I froze. With, "What?" She crossed her arms, eyes cold. "Don't make me repeat myself, leech." I felt the floor under my knees before I realized I'd dropped. I wasn't crying, not then. I just wanted it to end. And as I dragged the cotton across the dirty suede, she turned to Dad and laughed. "She finally looks like what she is." Something broke inside me then. Not snapped, not screamed. Broke, quietly, permanently. That night, I went up to the attic where they'd shoved all my childhood things. My old laptop, my high school journals, my tiny, cracked USB filled with backups of writing no one had ever read. I dusted them off like relics. I stayed up all night scanning photos, old letters, proof of things they didn't want the world to remember. The next morning, they acted like nothing happened. But I wasn't the same. And soon, neither were they. Because I wasn't planning to stay silent anymore. And they had no idea at all that the girl they made kneel would soon have them crawling. The days that followed were quiet on the surface. Too quiet. Brielle went on filming her unboxing videos and fake crying into the camera about gratitude while I passed behind her holding bags of groceries no one ever thanked me for. Mom kept barking her daily orders, smug with the belief I'd finally broken. Dad grunted commands like a boss man from a job I never applied for, but none of them noticed the USB was missing from the attic. Or that the printer in the garage was suddenly being used at night. Or that I'd stopped reacting to anything they said, not even when Mom threw cold coffee on my clean laundry and said, "You should be lucky we wash anything around you." I wasn't numb. I was planning. I had started compiling everything photos of bruises Brielle left when she pushed past me, screenshots of texts where my parents called me a parasite, videos I secretly filmed of Dad calling me filth under his boots, and most valuable of all family documents, things they thought I never knew how to find. Mom had once worked for a nonprofit that advocated for women's dignity. That would have been a joke if it weren't so dark. Their website still listed her as a retired senior advisor. She bragged about it at every family gathering, called herself the face of perseverance. Brielle had won a humility award from a luxury brand 2 years ago. I had the email invite in her inbox. The brand was doing a campaign about real women with real strength. They'd flown her to LA for it. I remembered because I was made to sleep in the garage while she packed. They had built everything on lies, carefully curated, well-lit lies. And I had every brick of it now. But that wasn't enough for me. No, it had to be poetic. So, when Brielle got an invitation to a high-profile PR brunch hosted by the same luxury brand, I volunteered to drive her. She tossed her heels at me and said, "Make sure the suede's not dusty this time, Cinderella." I nodded, because I had already sent the email. To the entire PR team. To the nonprofit board that still worshipped my mother's legacy. To a local journalist who specialized in public hypocrisy. I didn't write a dramatic expose. I didn't even sign my name. I just attached a link unlisted to a private drive. The cover image? Brielle's latest video. She was mid-rant, screaming, "You think just because she edits articles on the internet she matters?" The next clip? Me, scrubbing her shoes. In my shirt, her laughing in the background, and Mom's voice clear as day. "She finally looks like what she is." The whole drive to the brunch, Brielle babbled about engagement and exposure. She didn't notice my silence. She never did. When we arrived, I parked, handed her the polished heels, and said, "Try not to trip on your own ego." She rolled her eyes and walked into the event like royalty. She came out 30 minutes later, white as paper, heels in hand, trembling. What did you do?" I just blinked. "Everything you taught me." At home, chaos erupted. Mom's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Her old nonprofit released a public statement condemning newly surfaced personal conduct unbecoming of our former advisor. Dad stormed through the house, cursing and throwing things, until the TV cut to a segment featuring Brielle's leaked video. The anchor said, "The influencer accused of verbal abuse and elitism toward a disabled sibling sources claim there's more to come." Mom looked like someone had poured acid on her pride. "What did you do to us?" she screamed. I stood there in the living room, calm, holding a mug of tea. "You made me scrub your pride like dirt, so I returned it to the ground." "You think anyone cares?" Brielle hissed, mascara smeared. "This will blow over." I smiled softly. "No, it won't." Because the next storm hadn't even hit yet. And it wasn't just about exposure. It was about making them live with the same humiliation in private. In silence. With nowhere left to point the finger but at each other. They thought the worst was over. A few articles, a few brand retractions, a handful of canceled brunches. Brielle still had her online followers. Mom still had friends at the country club. Dad still walked around like no one could touch him. But humiliation, it doesn't rot instantly. It festers, quietly, from the inside out. A week after the brunch disaster, Brielle lost her brand deal. 2 days later, her main sponsor quietly replaced her with a rival influencer. She raged in her room for hours, screaming into her phone, crying about betrayal. Mom tried to console her, saying, "They're just jealous of your spotlight." But the calls stopped coming. The PR invites vanished. Mom didn't fare better. Her club revoked her honorary membership. A longtime friend sent her a message that read, "It's one thing to pretend, it's another to raise monsters." Dad, the rock of the family, had the hardest fall. A local contractor he used to bully, the one he once called a second-rate plumber, turned out to be part of a review board Mom had applied to join years ago. He sent out the clips from the leaked drive to the rest of the board. Quietly. No signatures. Just evidence. Suddenly, Dad was asked to step down from the neighborhood leadership council, the only position he ever bragged about. And I hadn't even touched the final nail yet. Because that came later, on a Sunday, when I hosted a small backyard lunch. For myself. I sent out a few invites to people who had seen me crawl in that house and still smiled at me, a retired librarian from down the street, a mechanic I once helped write a resume for, my old high school teacher who used to slide snacks into my locker. 12 people came, no cameras, no big speeches, just shared stories, old music, and laughter mine, real and loud for the first time in years. From the kitchen window, I saw Mom watching, face pale, unmoving. When I took out the trash afterward, she stood in the yard like a ghost. "You humiliated us," she whispered. I looked her in the eyes, those same eyes that once rolled while I cried on the floor, scrubbing mud off suede. "No," I said. "You did that yourselves. I just stopped cleaning up after you." She looked down as if she'd never seen grass before. "Your sister cries every night." "Good. Let her start over. Let her feel what it's like not to be worshipped for doing nothing." "She's your sister. And I was your daughter." I walked past her and dropped the trash into the bin. The next day, the locks were changed. I moved into a small apartment on my own, nothing fancy, just clean, mine. The first thing I unpacked was a pair of white sneakers. Still stained that day. I didn't throw them away. I framed them. Because the people who treated me like a rag will now live knowing the one they called worthless stood up, walked away, and left them trapped in the pride they once wore like crowns. Now, every time they look around that house, all they'll see is dirt, and the ghost of the girl they tried to grind into it. But I didn't stay buried, I bloomed, right through the cracks they left behind. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.